there's something magical about candy. For many of us, it takes just a single bite to be transported back to childhood. The crinkle of the wrapper, the burst of sweetness, and the colorful little treats that seemed like treasures in a bag. Among all the candies that define generations, Skittles hold a special place. Just imagine the joy of tearing open a bag and letting those fruity colors spill into your hand, each one promising a different burst of flavor. Today, millions of Americans still reach for them when they want something fun, nostalgic, and delicious. But here's the real question. Have you ever stopped to wonder how billions of these tiny rainbow candies are made each year? Behind every bite is a fascinating process of science, precision, and a little bit of magic that turns sugar into the rainbow you taste. The story of Skittles begins decades ago in the United Kingdom, back in 1971, under a small brand called Jack Candies. At first, they were just another quirky fruit-flavored candy in a competitive market, but their colorful shells and chewy centers quickly stood out. Mars Incorporated, a candy powerhouse, saw the potential and officially registered the Skittles trademark in the U.S. in 1974. By 1979, Skittles were being distributed across North America, where they quickly became a cultural phenomenon. By 1982, production was fully shifted to the United States, allowing Mars to meet the explosive demand. Fast forward to 2008, Mars Wrigley merged with the Wrigley Company, cementing Skittles as one of the flagship candies in the Mars empire, a brand that still dominates candy aisles today. Inside the Mars Wrigley factory, where tens of millions of Skittles are produced every single day, everything begins with a recipe carefully calibrated down to the gram. Sugar and cornstarch, the backbone of the candy, are weighed with scientific precision. Corn syrup is added to give the candy its chewy consistency, and liquid flavorings create the fruity notes that fans love. These ingredients are mixed in giant stainless steel tanks at around 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. Stirring continues until the mixture becomes smooth, eliminating any lumps or bubbles that could ruin the uniform texture. Once the mixture is ready, it's piped into a cooking kettle, where the temperature is raised to about 115 to 120 degrees Celsius. This stage is critical. The heat evaporates excess moisture, thickening the mixture into a taffy-like consistency. Operators monitor every detail from pressure to viscosity, because even a slight deviation could result in candies that don't hold their shape or texture. When the consistency is just right, the thick syrup is pushed through an extruder, forming long, cylindrical ropes that are instantly cut by precision blades into small pieces, about 8 to 10 millimeters each. These warm, slightly sticky pieces are the first stage of what will eventually become Skittles. They're placed onto cooling conveyors, where their shape is locked in before moving on to the next phase. At this point, the candy centers, sometimes called blanks, are smooth, round, and ready to meet their iconic sugar shells. They're transferred into massive panning drums, which rotate slowly like oversized cement mixers. Here, hot sugar syrup and glazing syrup are sprayed onto the candies, coating them evenly. While the syrup is still sticky, a fine dusting of sugar is applied to absorb moisture and set the layer in place. This process isn't quick. Dozens of cycles are required to build up the shell. Each cycle strengthens the candy and sets the stage for its final crunch. The magic of color comes next. Depending on the batch, the candies are coated in alternating layers of red, orange, yellow, green, or purple. If you've ever wondered why Skittles are so vibrantly uniform, it's because this layering process is meticulously controlled, with each color having its own dedicated mixing cycle. As the candies tumble around in the drums, they create a rhythmic clinking sound, almost like a candy symphony, as their shells harden and thicken to about 3 or 4 millimeters. This is when the iconic crunch develops, the satisfying bite that protects the chewy fruit center. Even at this point though, the candies look a bit dull. That glossy finish that makes Skittles shine isn't natural, it comes from the final steps. Before that happens, the candies pass through a vibrating sieve system, where any off-sized or misshapen pieces are filtered out. These rejects don't go to waste, they're often recycled back into new batches. The perfectly shaped candies move forward, where a laser printing system stamps the iconic S onto each one at lightning speed, thousands per minute. The last step is where the candies get their irresistible shine. A mist of carnauba wax, or sometimes a vegetable-based wax blend, is sprayed on. This not only gives them a glossy finish but also prevents them from sticking together in the bag. From here, Skittles are portioned into exact weights, usually between 56 and 100 grams per bag, before passing through labeling, heat sealing, and packaging. Once boxed, they're shipped to stores across the world, ready to bring that burst of rainbow to millions of candy lovers. But Skittles aren't the only candy with a fascinating backstory. Take lollipops for instance, a treat so simple yet so iconic. Who hasn't unwrapped one and twirled it around, savoring the sweet flavor that seems to last forever? Today, over 100 million lollipops are made every single day in U.S. factories. But their history goes back much further. As early as the 17th century, people were experimenting with hardened sugar on sticks, creating primitive versions of the modern lollipop. By the early 1900s, the concept was commercialized in both England and the U.S., and in 1931, the Dum Dums brand was introduced. Soldiers in World War II carried them for quick morale-boosting energy, and by the 1950s and 60s, lollipops were an industrial candy staple, available in endless shapes, colors, and flavors. The process of making lollipops is surprisingly scientific. Everything begins with sugar and corn syrup, carefully measured and heated in mixing kettles. At about 75 to 80 degrees Celsius, the sugar dissolves completely, creating a uniform syrup. Then the mixture is transferred to a cooking kettle and heated further to around 120 to 125 degrees Celsius, evaporating any excess moisture until the candy reaches the perfect concentration, about 80 to 82% sugar solids. Once the balance is achieved, the molten syrup is cooled slightly before being transferred into molds or drop-forming machines. If the lollipops are round, heart-shaped, or novelty designs, the molten mixture is poured into pre-made molds with sticks already in place. If they're classic round pops, a drop-forming machine deposits the candy onto a moving belt where sticks are automatically inserted into each hot drop. Within minutes, cooling fans or refrigerated chambers solidify the candy, locking it into its final shape. The result is that perfect pairing of stick and candy head that has delighted children for generations. From there, the lollipops are wrapped. Automatic wrapping machines twist nylon film or foil tightly around each candy, sealing in freshness while protecting it from moisture. Watching this process is mesmerizing. The machine spins the wrapper tightly around the candy, seals it, and snips off the excess in a fraction of a second. After date coding and barcode labeling, the lollipops are packed into bags of 20 to 50 pieces, or sometimes individually boxed for retail. The bags are boxed into larger cartons, inspected, and shipped around the world. And candy isn't the only sweet treat with a fascinating story. Think about apple juice, the refreshing drink you've probably had at breakfast or packed in your lunchbox. Every year, factories in the United States produce more than 2 billion liters of apple juice. In states like Washington and Michigan, massive orchards grow millions of tons of apples, which are harvested, sorted, pressed, and transformed into the clear golden juice we enjoy every day. From the moment an apple is picked to the instant the juice hits your glass, the process is one of science, engineering, and centuries of tradition. On a hot summer afternoon, nothing feels more refreshing than a chilled glass of apple juice or a handful of gummy bears bursting with fruity flavor. These two simple treats are woven deep into American childhood memories, yet behind every sip and every chewy bite lies a surprisingly complex story. Apple juice, often seen as one of the most wholesome drinks, and gummy bears, the tiny colorful candies that light up snack aisles, are not just products of modern convenience. They are the result of centuries of tradition, innovation, and industrial artistry that transformed simple ingredients into cultural icons. Today we'll peel back the curtain and take you behind the scenes of how apple juice and gummy bears are made in the United States, tracing their journey from orchards and factories to your fridge and candy bowl. Apple juice is not a modern invention but a beverage with a rich history stretching back centuries. In 17th century Europe, people squeezed apples by hand to create a refreshing, tart drink that was often enjoyed during harvest seasons. By the 19th century, the process became more sophisticated with the introduction of mechanical presses and primitive filtration, allowing families to store juice longer without it spoiling as quickly. Apple juice crossed the Atlantic and became especially popular in the United States during the late 1800s, when the first factories in New York and Michigan began bottling it commercially. By the 1950s, major technological breakthroughs such as pasteurization and vacuum canning transformed apple juice from a short-lived farm product into a staple that could be safely stored and shipped nationwide. What was once a seasonal harvest drink had now become an American refrigerator essential. Today, the story of apple juice begins in the sprawling orchards of states like Washington, Michigan, and New York, where apple season typically runs from August through October. These orchards are alive with the sound of automated harvesters, though many premium apples are still picked carefully by hand to avoid bruising. Only apples with taut, shiny skins and perfect ripeness make the cut for juice production. Those that are underripe, cracked, or blemished aren't wasted. They are often sent to be processed into cider, vinegar, or even compost to feed the soil for the next season's crops. Once harvested, the apples make their way to large packing facilities where they begin their transformation. Conveyors carry them under powerful streams of water and high-pressure air jets that wash away dirt, leaves, and any lingering pesticide residue. This is not just about cleanliness, it's about preserving taste and safety. After washing, teams or automated vision systems inspect the apples once again, ensuring only flawless fruit moves forward. Those that don't pass are immediately removed, because a single rotten apple truly can spoil the batch. The chosen apples are then funneled into massive slicing and crushing machines, which core them, remove seeds, and grind the flesh into a thick, fragrant pulp. This pulp, heavy with juice, is transferred into hydraulic or screw presses. With immense pressure, the presses squeeze out every golden drop, separating the juice from the fibrous pomace. The raw juice that emerges is cloudy, with suspended solids and fine pulp particles. It doesn't yet resemble the clear liquid you see in bottles, but at this stage it carries the unmistakable aroma of fresh apples. To refine the juice, it passes through filters or high-speed centrifuges that spin out the sediment. Factories may also use enzymes such as pectinase to clarify the juice, breaking down natural apple pectins that cause cloudiness. Within minutes, the once cloudy liquid transforms into a smooth, pale golden drink that looks much closer to the apple juice we know. However, there's still one critical step before it can be bottled safely: sterilization. The juice is pumped into massive stainless steel tanks where it is heated to around 185 degrees Fahrenheit, 85 to 90 degrees Celsius, for less than a minute, then rapidly cooled. This quick burst of heat, known as pasteurization, kills harmful bacteria, mold, and yeast without compromising the fresh apple flavor. Some factories use ultra-high temperature methods that allow juice to be stored for months without preservatives. Once cooled to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, the juice is ready for packaging. In modern U.S. factories, packaging is a fully automated marvel. Long rows of sterilized glass or PET plastic bottles move along conveyor belts while precise filling machines pump in exact volumes, ranging from school-friendly 250 milliliter bottles to family-sized 1-liter containers. Within seconds, bottles are capped, sealed, and stamped with production and expiration dates. Workers monitor the process closely, ensuring consistency and safety. The finished cartons are stacked and shipped to supermarkets across the country, where shoppers pick them up without ever realizing the complex journey behind each bottle. If apple juice represents the wholesome side of childhood, gummy bears capture its playful, colorful spirit. Few candies can trigger nostalgia quite like tearing open a bag of gummy bears and watching the light shimmer through their bright colors before popping them in your mouth. But like apple juice, gummy bears also have a fascinating history that begins far from America. The story starts in Germany in 1922, when confectioner Hans Riegel, founder of Haribo, invented the first bear-shaped gummy candy known as the dancing bear. With its chewy texture and fruity sweetness, it quickly captured the hearts of children across Europe. By the 1960s and 1970s, gummy bears had made their way to the United States, where they became a cultural phenomenon. Generations of American kids grew up with lunchboxes that often carried a small bag of gummy bears, each bite a sugary burst of happiness. Inside a candy factory, the magic of gummy bear making is a mix of science and artistry. The recipe starts with just a few core ingredients: gelatin for chewiness, sugar and corn syrup for sweetness and structure, and fruit flavorings for taste. Colorings, both natural and synthetic, give gummy bears their signature rainbow appearance. These ingredients are measured with exact precision, as even the smallest variation can affect texture or flavor. The sugar, syrup, and gelatin are dissolved in warm water and transferred into enormous cooking kettles where the mixture is heated to nearly boiling. Workers or automated stirrers constantly keep the liquid moving to prevent scorching. As the mixture thickens into a glossy syrup, fruit flavorings like strawberry, lemon, orange, and apple are added. The smell inside the factory is intoxicating, a wave of fruity sweetness that seems to carry childhood memories in every whiff. Once cooked, the liquid candy is pumped into molding machines fitted with thousands of tiny bear-shaped molds made from silicone or metal. These molds are lightly coated in starch or oil to ensure the gummies release easily. With precise timing, the hot syrup flows into each cavity, filling it with what will soon become a gummy bear. Under the glow of factory lights, it's a mesmerizing sight, as if tiny candy bears are coming to life before your eyes. The molds are left to cool and set, allowing the gelatin to firm up. After a few hours, the trays are flipped, and hundreds of freshly formed gummy bears tumble gently onto conveyor belts. They pass through vibrating machines that separate them and remove any excess candy fragments. To prevent sticking, they are lightly dusted with a fine coating of beet sugar or rice starch, giving them a matte finish. Some variations are later polished with edible wax to achieve a glossy sheen. Finally, the gummy bears are portioned by weight and sealed into colorful bags or small cartons. Each bag is not just candy, it's a packet of joy that has traveled through precision cooking, molding, cooling, and packing to land in your hands. From factory to store shelf, millions of gummy bears are produced daily in the U.S., ensuring that both kids and adults can continue enjoying this timeless treat. When we look at a bottle of apple juice or open a bag of gummy bears, we rarely think about the long history, innovation, and intricate processes behind them. Apple juice connects us to centuries of tradition, from European orchards to American factories, while gummy bears tie us to our childhoods, a sweet reminder of simple joys. These everyday products carry not just flavor but memories, school lunches, family picnics, road trips, and lazy afternoons in the summer sun. The next time you pour yourself a cold glass of apple juice or savor a handful of gummy bears, take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary effort behind such ordinary pleasures. From apples picked under autumn skies to tiny candy bears molded in endless rows, every step is a story of craftsmanship, technology, and culture. These treats remind us that even the simplest things we enjoy often hide the most fascinating journeys. And if you love discovering the hidden secrets of how your favorite foods and snacks are made, stay tuned, because the world of everyday products has more magic than you could ever imagine.